Peace, peace, peace. Greetings, greetings. Look like somebody auntie. Not really, I look like me. Greetings to all. Um, Peace and love to all. Clarity. Man. Shout out to you. Shout out to all of you. Wherever you are on your journey. What's up, bird? Yeah. Whoa. Let me start off by saying this. I'm first. When let's give an honor to source. Let's give an honor to our ancestors, known and unknown. Just do my best to let this flow out. But shit, I'm gonna tell you one thing about this. If some may call it healing journey, or let me tell you about this healing journey. About really facing yourself, your shadow, about facing your fears. There are things that still comes up or will come up that we feel we have faced. I mean, things that still come up that I feel like I have faced. But then I told myself, I said, let me go ahead and get on here and call myself out. And it ain't even just calling myself out. It's like not only myself individually, but like collectively. And sometimes the ego, well, I speak on myself, like wants to be like, yeah, this person, but then I learned to balance it between like my higher self, whatever you want to call it, and your ego. And I tell myself like, okay, let's be authentic. Let's not shoot the shit. Let's not cut any corners. And I came across this post, yo. And then I had to write down like what the post quoted, or it's in my community center. I had to write down, let me reposition this because I don't want to keep turning to the camera. So anywho, I hope that didn't stop. Nope, it didn't. So anywho, hey, I told you, this is what happened when you just. I have this little thing that sits the camera up, so sometimes it flips out, but that's neither here nor there. So let me just reposition myself right quick. So sundown wind chimes. Come on, I don't want my camera to flip out again. My phone. Okay, anywho. Try this again. Okay, so if you go to my community center, there is what do you call it? Yeah, the post is in my community center. And it talks about, y'all bear with me. It talks about the double life of the narcissist. Woo. Yeah, this is gonna be interesting. And the reason I say, because first and foremost, it's so easy, again, for a society to automatically, how we were groomed or programmed to believe, it's so easy to point the finger at everybody else but ourselves. So I'm gonna first call out my own self, my own shit, and say this, because again, it ain't about cutting corners. It's really about being honest with myself and so forth, because for one, the accountability in it all says a lot. So again, this topic of, oh Lord, the double life of a narcissist. And again, this is not for everybody, and whatever resonates, just receive and share the message, or however you feel, with yourself or someone in your life, however, But how y'all doing though? Like, man, do you see the world being turned upside down? There's so much is happening right now. Don't you? Now I had this, it flipped over. Y'all bear with me. But like I said, jumping right into it, like, oh my gosh. When I saw that post, it really showed me myself. It really, like, some things really don't hit me. And sometimes, and that's the programming in itself. We can be going along in life so much with things to where we're not even conscious of even breathing, even our behavior patterns. You know, certain things we're not even aware of. We're like just going. And one thing life has shown me through this journey is like, slow your ass down. Slow down. Go in solitude, be with yourself, and really see how you have been living in such a inauthentic world, or fake world, or this illusion of what success is, what it is to be a man, what it is to be human, what it is to be yourself. Like, slow down so I can show you. That's like what the divine was like revealing to me. Slow down so I can show you that it's you. Yes, you know, there are things that have happened to you from other people, whether their intentions were good or bad, or, you know, whatever it is. But on a higher perspective, oh my gosh, I just had this. There we go, I say. But on a more deeper level, you know, more getting in tune with yourself, on a frequency aspect, you know, I had to realize, like, okay, yo, it's you, bro. It's you, but also the being more self-aware. And I've spoken about this a lot on my channel, talking about how you know, environments, conflict-driven environments. But this post really stuck out to me, and I was like, I'm just gonna wing it. I'm just gonna go in my own way, speak from my experiences, and really like highlight a lot of shit to where not only for myself, but really see how when you see these environments, I like to say the old world, because I realize now I am the process, or the seed that is planted in this world to create a new world, a new perspective on life, a new way of being, you know, to restore that balance of like people who value peace, people who, you know, balance, you know, want harmony or desire and deserve harmony, peace, and people who reflect that, communities, environments, so forth. So I'm going to read these things, and I'm going to, again, express from my experience. But it says the double life of a narcissist. I noted this, and I was like, oh my gosh, if this hasn't been me. And that's why I say it's like no one can exploit me, expose me, blackmail, so forth, when you really have came to that own self-awareness of like your own shit, your own shadow, your own role in what reality and, you know, you created, and to be able to put yourself in others' shoes, or in their place, and to realize like, okay, they're either wounded or they're afraid of something, or haven't accepted this, and so forth. You know, the list goes on and on. So this double life of a narcissist first says, and I just go give analogies and so forth. So basically it's like, to the world, when you see the corruption with the media and to everything else, to the world, I could, like, again, I use myself. On here, I could see like, oh my God, this guy is phenomenal. Like I said, everyone probably won't accept that. I don't really care. It's not about that. But it's like, to the world and what we've seen through the corruptions of social media, I can give off this image of like, oh my gosh, this person is amazing. You know, giving off this false identity of like, he's perfect. He gotta look a certain way. You know, oh my gosh, look, he got all this. You know, basically like this, not only this imagery, but giving off this illusion to lure people in who are unaware or not even self-conscious of, you know, what someone really, you know, their intentions behind what they're doing. You know, there's a difference between seeing me, meeting me energetically or so forth, like me giving off this ambiance or this illusion, like, oh yes, this is perfect, and yes, and I love, and if you do this and pay, you know, stuff like that and so forth, and, you know, razzle dazzling you're at, but know nothing about, you know, to the depths of who I am, what I do in my home, how I treat other people, so forth. So it says this double life of narcissists. And the first one, it says jealousy and vindictive. Extremely reactive or impulsive. Cold and unempathetic. Manipulative. Hostile and calculated. Entitled. Very much so, as some would say. I don't know why I wanted to say that. And then in the public eye. Now this finna rock y'all world. In the public eye, that means to the world. An excellent caregiver or parent. Very sociable. Giving, very generous. Very calm and composed. Caring. Humble and respectful. And I said, what in the... I'll be the first to say, because this is the thing that, again, where the accountability comes in. I did a video a while back with a sister on a podcast, and in that video, we were speaking about narcissists, and you know, there's been this oversaturation of like using this word, and automatically, you know how it's like a trend. Like a new dance come out and everybody started saying, oh yeah, that's the and the and the rah rah. And so it's like a, tell 'em bird, yeah, it's like a trending thing. So again, with this word narcissist, again, it's like immediately, it's like it's, again, in that video we talked about like how we were, you know, this emphasis on, you know, caregivers of certain people, you know, narcissists or whatever. But then I said, I'm trying to see how I quoted it. I was like, to attract a narcissist, you first have to be one. And I was like, I was a narcissist. And that's simply because I can acknowledge my narcissistic attributes or characteristics. And being so is because I was around it. I was surrounded around it. I believed that this was something I should become. Or subconsciously, when I grew up as a child, this is something that I took on, a programming. So when I go back to the double life, this shit blew my mind. I said, yo, it immediately brung up people. This is not pointing the finger. It immediately brought the awareness around how I'll bring up a memory. And you know, some of y'all that, if you was in school acting crazy and sometimes your mama popped up at that school, I had memories like that. Memory really came up for me. And you know, I'm on here, I'm calling shit out, but at the same moment I'm holding myself accountable, like in the same essence, like, you know, of the bigger picture, you know. But it's like the memory that came up for me was immediately seeing my mom in that doorway looking like this, like straight at me. And some of you know that stare, like your mama look into your soul like, I'm gonna whoop your ass when we get home. You in here behaving like this in this school and then embarrassing me in front of these. And I use this term because people don't realize, like, I use this term lightly. It's not in a sense of attacking people of any nationality, culture, creed, or whatever. This is for people who, for those that do not know, like how, you know, mothers that are darker color, or, you know, or have a deeper pigmentation, you know, or melanin or whatever, or melanated, more melanated. But basically, that was just things where, again, a lot of us were groomed by narcissistic mother or very wounded mothers. So the verbal abuse was one, the physical abuse was another, and so forth. So um that immediately made me reflect on so much, like, psychologically, that I went through. And it's funny because we'll sit here and laugh at it, but that's the mental illness in it. Like, it really was damaging. Like, I laugh at it now because I be like, oh my gosh, I won't ever go through that again. I cannot ever put myself through that again. But I remember the vague memory of her standing, because some of our mothers, they will pop up and they give you that look. And this is some of their famous quotes. It's like, I'm a whoop. Those eyes said everything. Though the look said, basically, you already know what it is when we get home, or you already know basically when we get home, or da 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 da. Like, it was almost like you already know that I'm going to whoop your ass. It's just that simple. Or get a beating. That's what they call it. And so forth. And then another terminology, like, you up here embarrassing me in front of these so-called, again, going back to the terminology because black and white is an adjective, but I'm being concrete. I'm being very authentic with y'all, where the term would be, you up here embarrassing me in front of these white folks. Because, again, you got to realize psychologically, some of our mothers have this image of, they don't really have an internal image of themselves that they uphold in a great way, in a beautiful way. And that's a whole other topic when it comes to even the psychological warfare that our mothers have went through. People of melanin descent in a country that really don't uphold or has upheld an image of people that are darker. And that immediately has ripped them from their own true value or own true nature beyond what has been implemented or blueprinted in their life or forced in their life with the monetary system, the governmental assistance, this all these things that was trying to reflect back their value, but in essence it didn't have value. It didn't really, again, infuse them with empowerment, basically. So again, these terminology, I'm able to just to break down in the backstory of it, to where, like, these are things or quotes that would be said, like, you up here embarrassing me, they might come home, they might call such, you up here there was so much fear around, let's say if she was or someone was on governmental assistance or Section 8, they may call it, or whatever, that could jeopardize not only their foundation, but the foundation for everybody. So that immediately was like punishment. So again, going back to this double life of being experiencing a narcissist, and even how I became one, and experiencing and now letting go of that and healing from that, that memory, that vague memory of just seeing her, like, in that doorway, because you in class and all your classmates in there. And the one thing that was very clever of the teacher, the teacher would never say nothing. And I think sometimes they were like inform I know now, it's like they would inform the caregiver that, like, you should come visit your son or so forth because they're not acting, right, behaving a certain way in school. And with that, I was like, I was never informed, so I felt like, oh my God. So when she popped up, she saw me, and then, I'm acting out normally because, again, what it was is that was my only place of liberation and freedom from not being abused at home or verbally, physically, and so forth. So my only escape or my only freedom was in so-called school, where I could express myself, but there still was a limitation on that. That it wasn't like school valued those things, because it's not always the fact of, oh, he's acting out, or like, what does that even mean? Or he's I know what it means, but I'm saying, like, what is it, to he's not acting like every other student. Even the controlling that, because it even, like, I'm gonna tie that in even to how even the school systems and everything, all these things that we were so gave our energy to keep was being uprooted now, is that you will see even how this double life of a narcissist is so connected to the school systems, the governmental structures, how all of it reflects a narcissistic, controlling, manipulative, what else? Cold, unempathetic. I mean, literally, like, hostile environments, entitled. Oh my gosh, like, the teachers, like, there's an entitlement. A lot of things that really highlight, again, me getting back to the double life of a narcissist, is that we saw our mothers act, basically, I would see my mother act one way at home, but when she brought her ass to the school, you will, oh, hey, how you doing, to the teachers and principals and stuff, like, you will act just perfect. Like, you ain't just whooping my ass at home. Like, you ain't, like, I'm just being real, because this is calling out a lot of things where, again, this is authentic shit. This is not, I'm holding myself accountable where I get to that point, but I'm also realizing, like, how we all have been affected in some type of way, no matter how we look at where the narcissist, who the narcissist was, if we were one, or even in environments. Again, when I say templates, I'm talking about the structures, the foundation of what the old world, or what the world gave off this illusion that of them being, a country, environments of them being excellent, them being so giving to people, so caring, what else, so respectful. But then when you look at the double life of that, I know personally people that don't want to have nothing to do with certain people of certain pigmentations, but due to their position, political positions, due to their status, due to their career, and so forth, deep down there's some, and this is their own insecurity, there is some type of jealousy, vindictiveness, a boss or somebody, let's call it out. They'll be, you get along with them, they'll be extremely reactive or impulsive. But as soon as they step foot outdoor, it's a whole, this goes back to the identity crisis, the false identity that this world has created globally, your politicians, your world leaders, and so forth, because you don't know who they are. You don't know what double life, you don't know what life they're living. But to the world, when you talk about your celebrities, I know people personally that have dealt alongside some people, and you best believe there's power struggles or certain things that people are very manipulative, or they come off as very confident, but deep down they're very empty and insecure. So in that, it's like narcissistic very much, because that's what it's given, and that's what it is. So again, me knowing personally from seeing that growing up, I can see how I myself had to learn to navigate through this shit even currently. Because again, no one can pull my card, no one can call my bluff when I realize that me facing my own shadow is me being at peace with the fact of, like, oh my gosh, I was around a narcissist. But you don't hear people, not that it matters, but you don't hear people saying, like, oh, I was that. I was that. I was, and I didn't even, and that's the thing that the mental illness and even the old world was programming not only us, but us as kids to be. And we don't see the dysfunction. We don't see it's not that we don't see. Some of us are afraid to see. See, that's the thing about the narcissist. They don't want to see. When you see how this country, when you see these environments where, when I look at some of these things, like when you talk about, first of all, when it comes to politicians or when it comes to certain environments, manipulative as much, If I'm trying to persuade you of something, knowing that it's not in the betterment for you or anyone else involved, manipulative as much. When you're talking about, the entitlement to, certain caregivers or certain people, that just because they're this, just because you're a celebrity, just because you have money, entitled much, just because you're in this position in the community, just because, you're a father and mother, entitled much, just because you're the, grandmother, grandpa, entitled much. So, but then, from my own experience of interacting with certain people, and I myself have done this. But we know those folks that, as soon as you at home or you go to their home and where they're comfortable in, and they just flip shit out on you. Curse you out, say all these things. And there's an entitlement around it because, I'm the such and such, so I can do this. But then go right outside and you going out to dinner as if nothing ever happened. We don't see the mental illness in this. And that's even myself, where I say I call my own bluff. To where, again, it's a difference between being unempathetic and cold, to where I realized, like, hold up. I had to really acknowledge the fact that though I carried that behavior pattern of not just the pain I went through with my mother and the women and my experience with men in my family, I carried that shit. And I projected it onto other people. And at that moment, wasn't it? And I was very cold about it. You're talking about a society that doesn't show any type of empathy, really have compassion for its country, for its people, for humanity, because it doesn't have self-compassion. It's not a country that's built off self-compassion or compassion or really being of service. This is the hidden traits that you're now seeing being exposed, and the people who orchestrated behind the scenes, and those who are being puppeteering as well, to keep people in this delusional state, this confusion. When it comes to your media, when it comes to your TV and so forth, placing these people in these, giving off this illusion of people that are higher. So when I start to look back, I'm like, oh my gosh, I was fucked up behind this. I didn't ruin people's lives, but it had a ripple effect until I became self-aware, like, yo, I too was this. I too was fueling. I was living that double life. From even my own experience of, again, it's not to say that we need to know everyone's business, but look how so much is forced upon us as a people to even view people more better, more valuable, more skilled, more successful than us. Rather than that taken away from really us looking at our own fucking self, our own shadow, our own fears, our own everything, and idolizing other people. So now that the world is faced to see their reflection, I'm like, oh my gosh. Me seeing myself, I'm like, whoa. That's what, it's not just the pain, but it's the awareness of like how many people I, in that moment, have had a ripple effect on. The ones I said I cared and loved the most, the ones that said they cared and loved me the most. Not all of you, but most of us that, have experienced this, when you're talking about how your mother or somebody has went out there, you could be in sports, you could be doing anything in life, but to the world, when they're out in front of the family, when they're out there in front of I'm just using the school. When they're in these environments, oh yeah, they're very giving. They're very sociable, acting like the perfect caregiver. Very calm and composed, but you get another side of them. You know that you get another side of them that no one has ever seen. And that's what, again, me speaking about this is like, from my experience and from me, people experiencing this through me. And so I realized, like, how did this shit stop? It hasn't stopped with me. And that's been one of my greatest lessons and processes, is that, regaining that peace, is that realizing, like, where has this behavior stemmed from? Okay, now how do I get through it? Now, where do I no longer continue it? Okay, how did I attract this relationship? Oh, I attracted this because this is reflecting back a part of me that I need to let go of instead of trying to continue that cycle. The mothers and fathers, or even a society that has groomed women, let's call it out, groomed women to even be narcissists. They don't even realize it. The governmental structures of certain things, I'm gonna call it out. Let's say, let's use child support as one of them. And this is because this is not to categorize all women. I'm telling y'all the templates. I'm talking about the foundations of these things, where the purpose of it is, again, outside of the emotions, how people feel, the foundations of these things were centered around, control, or giving off this illusion like it's helping or being of service. It's giving, all these things, again, it's giving, or it seems like it's for the betterment for the child. But when we see, from my experience, speaking on mine, from my experience and those who I know personally, to see how certain mothers have used and abused it, then that it's very narcissistic and controlling. Because they'll act like they're perfect. They'll act like and then the opposite of it, they act like the father is far from that. In certain incidents, it's not all, but to the depths of it, it's like something to keep people divided. Or it was, again, that monetary aspect of that, to treat the child like a product. To not really get, what I'm saying is not to really get to the root of that. So it causes people to live this double life, and they don't even know they're realizing that they're living. And again, going back to the root of a lot of these things, we know personally people that they will act a certain way, and then you'll see them paint this perfect picture of them being an excellent person. And one thing I had to gain within myself now is like taking no shit from nobody, because once I became aware of these things, and even how I was a part of that programming, and how I was a part of, at a point in time, fueling, these things, I realized I start to sit back, rest more, and see the same characteristics displayed in so many other people. Once I started, and that's the thing about the healing journey, once you start to recognize the energies, once you start to recognize the patterns within yourself, depending on what it is, you'll really start to see it play out in other people. And that's showing that the energy is like being removed, or, basically reflecting back to yourself. Like, wow, I was doing that, or, some type of similarities, to where the universe will show you certain things, to where you'll realize, like, where we was not conscious or aware of it, we become aware of it then. So, oh man, let me see what more I could discuss on this. So it's the reason, again, holding my own self accountable, is that when I really see in my present life, not that it's happening now, but I will see, like, and this is, again, me healing through this right now and having to face it and see my own part. Because, again, there were moments where I would act a certain way, let's say in the club environments around my homeboys. And this going back to even like, again, that part of my life where I wasn't aware, or I wasn't as emotionally intelligent. I was very impulsive. And that was rooted in the fact that I had no sense of control or how to navigate my emotions, or being shown from a man and a woman, how it is to honor those things. So in those environments, I would even myself, through substance abuse, drank a lot, and then, again, be numb to the fact of, how you can be drinking a lot and so forth, and don't even realize, like, you either got in an altercation with someone, or whether at the club, or then you go home, there's an altercation there. And so, again, from seeing that in my childhood, and then not facing those pains and repressing it, I carried it into relationships to where I displayed this impulsiveness. And at that moment, I didn't know where to go to get help, because you're in a relationship just with someone you're seeing most of the time. Then that's when the manipulation comes in, to where it's like, due to codependency, you don't know what else to do, because you have never seen yourself outside of what was comfortable, or what has been comfortable, due to codependency, due to conflict-driven environments. So a part of me at that moment where I was in that wounded state, I was like, this is not me. But again, when you're in environments where you haven't known how to establish a solid foundation within yourself, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, so even living with someone and not having a place to stay, that's where I could see how in the past the manipulation came in, to where it's like you're trying to manipulate this person and be like, I don't have nowhere to go, make them feel some type of empathy or sympathy in a way, to where it's like that same pattern begins. Like, that's just real. And and that's where, let me see, okay, and that's where, again, me able to recognize the narcissistic aspect, to where this is being displayed in the home, but then when I'm out there, it's like, again, those in the public eye, being the perfect is, giving calm composure, humble and respected. Now, it wasn't always like this. I'm just giving experiences and examples from what I've experienced, what I've also went through, whether giving or receiving in, and acknowledging it, and to realize, like, I will always encourage people to like, for me, it's like, it's uncomfortable talking about it. But what it is, the reason why it's uncomfortable is because what a part of me and myself don't want to be honest with myself. Because there's nothing to convince nobody else outside of me to accept me, to embrace me, because those are aligned with that will have already accepted to the depths of their own truth, their own past, and don't have shame and guilt around it. It's just certain things that I reflect on and talking about. I'm like, oh my gosh, let me talk about it. Let me clear it out. Let me speak about it for myself. And it is because it brings up memories. Things just don't go away. It brings up memories to where I have to become at peace with it. Because in reflecting and channeling that aspect, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I can see where the manipulation through sex, whether it happened to me, whether I grew up in environments like that, again, where people didn't even realize, like, what makes it so beautiful and being on, like, what I say, like, the healing journey and the holistic approach, is that the holistic approach is recognizing the darkness and the light and seeing it like one and the same on an energetic aspect. So with that, again, I had to experience a wounded woman to attract to heal that wounded aspect of myself, and also to bring that healing towards those that come after me. So with that, through that wounded aspect of seeing people who were wounded, I also became wounded from their projections and so forth. So when I see this double life thing, it's like when you look at humanity in a whole, we all have been a part of it. There is no denying that. I don't care who like, it's not my business. I don't care who portrays themselves on social media and so forth. You have no idea to the depths, again, what they've experienced or what they're currently going through or what they have been through. One thing about me is no one can come tell me about me, you know, or like how I should respond or do certain things, especially where I have made peace or acknowledge certain shit, you know. And so the beauty again of all of that is now about the intention. See, the healing aspect of it is that healing the internal wound to now to approach the current aspect of now setting the intentions moving forward. So those that come after us don't got to experience this. When I look at the environments of kids that are, when I see kids, I'm putting myself there. I'm like, as soon as I see their behavior, I'm like, shit, I can see they probably went through something. My most challenging thing is realizing, like, with having a child, I've really been reflecting on my role in a lot of things. That's what brings the awareness to me. Because the truth is like, we have caregivers, but they don't know what a narcissist is. Some of them, when you're calling them out on certain things, you know, a lot of their programming is not really up to date in a way where they even can, you know, regulate those things. They don't even want to regulate their emotions. They don't even want to accept. And some of them probably is going to transition in not even accepting or willing to evolve. That's been one of the most challenging things for me too, because it's a sign to me just as well as it's a sign to you, those who see this video. So to even acknowledge the fact of your role or our role is seeing the generational curse, or seeing that part of ourselves where we're no longer abandoning ourselves for material delusion of material success, or what success even mean, or even the process of like gaining or over giving, or, you know, over burning ourselves out for acceptance, approval, or just to simply be, you know, to devalue ourselves in any way. And so that's something, again, me speaking about this double life as, you know, of a narcissist. When I saw, I was like, oh my gosh. My ego at that time, depending on where I was operating in, I could have allowed it to override and be like, oh, I'm gonna talk about everybody else but myself. Not at all. Because the truth is like a lot of what we have done is very controlling, narcissistic, manipulative. I mean, let's call it out. Like, when you see some of these social media sites or certain things, this is calling out the corruption in the media and so forth, you know, this platform. There's a lot of hitting jealousy or vindictiveness, to where I think this is why we're going back to where I was talking about the mothers. You know, you have some mothers, and I've seen this from experience. Mothers are people that, before I get into the media thing, like, you'll see father or mother, somebody publicly display this caring and loving behavior, calmness. But when you go home, you know, you have some people, due to their own shadows, their own insecurities, are very vindictive or very jealous of their kids. And this could be repressed envy. This could be a lot of repressed emotions due to their own childhood, or what they've experienced, or what cycle they have been through with their mother. See, I like to connect it to where, again, what grandmother, you know, what did grandma put our mothers through? You know, and a lot of us don't go to that depth, but it says a lot to how we are here presently. You know, how we know grandma and, well, actually, yeah, I've seen relatives live that life. Because me saying that, I've definitely seen how some will go out there and promote their grandkids, or, you know, yeah, baby, But you know, when they go home, they're cussing them flat out. I'm telling you from experience, they cussing. I had an aunt, man. Like, I'm just calling out. It's just the way she talked to her kids, to where, I had a cousin. He transitioned, but I'm just speaking from my shit. Like, I had a cousin that transitioned. Like, he was great, great. He was great in areas to where, again, I saw myself so much to where, he had this gift of just like fighting. We all grew up fighting because, again, we were in environments where we had to fight for ourselves. This connects to this narcissistic shit, to where their home environment was very, I mean, and this is wow. Some people actually see this shit as normal, to talk to their kids like, shut the fuck up, sit down, calling them. I mean, some things that when I talk to other people, they never grew up in environments like that. But people have no idea of some of the environments like a lot of us have grew up in that are like, I wouldn't ever compare my journey to no one else. And to even get through it, to be able to talk about it, again, like seeing my cousins, like, I can just see like how certain mothers felt like their kids were burdensome. They felt like their kids were like, hold on one moment. They just felt like their kids was like a burden. They felt like they didn't feel worthy. And then they would have these kids, but just treat them like, again, no sense of awareness of their own childhood woundings, or no awareness around, like, really, basically no self-compassion. For me, and that's why I feel like the thing where it brings awareness to me, where for me on my journey, where that changes, like, this is a huge turning point in my life to be able to be aware of that. Now, and that's saying like I've displayed certain things similar to the double life of a narcissist, like, because that's because I had to acknowledge, or I could no longer ignore. It was placed in my heart to no longer ignore these patterns, because breaking generational chains, those things generationally comes up, those shadows, those fears, and so forth. And so that brings everything full circle for me now, to be willing to face the shadow, to be willing to face those things, and really having the courage to change it. And no one has that courage and but me to do that. So again, just speaking from what I saw growing up, man, I would see like the aunt like talk to them like, oh my God. Now I see it now, from being able to see how I was verbally abused, and to see how now I'm trying to change that narrative. It's like, I can see why now that they never had the confidence to fulfill, or I can see that void that they was trying to fill, to even try to, in their eyes, be, to even in their eyes, to try to even live up to this, how could I say this? To really get their approval through their through their success, for their mother or for their family. But what I'm getting at, how could I break this down? One thing about my cousin is like, he was very gifted at fighting and football and some other stuff. I never discussed it. But now that I see how, when I'm talking about this double life thing, it's like his mother would, they would go out there publicly and act real calm and so forth. But at home, a lot of us as young men, we have dealt with some very impulsive, manipulative, like just cruel behavior. Not to mention, when we're talking about that, you're talking about verbal, physical abuse and so forth. So again, I can see how at that moment, him wanting to do something but not really having that guidance to channel that pain and to really use it to, to channel that pain, but to also to whether transmute it or express it, or in a creative way to really expand his life. And him being surrounded by, eventually getting connected to some relatives, or just getting involved with some things that led him to being shot. And when I look at that, I could just see how it could be very challenging for us, or just men, to try to, it was very challenging for me to try to believe or know that I am capable of being loved again, or to be embraced, or to be accepted, especially when we didn't see that displayed or see that visual. Because as men, I feel like we're more visual. It's not to say we're not, as in tune or, intuitive, but from a visual, and as a child, we're seeing this, we have seen some of our mothers emotionally neglect us, abandon us, and abuse us, and so forth, and also choose other men, whether through, in relationships and so forth, and see that displayed not just in the home, but outside of the home, where there's this boss that may be a man, or there's this man and they're acting, as if they're inferior. But then when you get home, there's this, again, double life, to where they're acting so superior to you, but in a more abusive way, in a more devaluing way. So when I really reflect on even my cousin, from his experience, I realized, like, we didn't really have a lot of well, he had coaches and stuff, he had people around him, but again, it was just that mindset, or people he was around, that really didn't really encourage him to really know how to navigate his anger, or his emotions, or the pain he even felt from his mother. Because again, we as men, a part of us are still, or what I've learned from my emotional impulsiveness, or being extremely reactive, is that I didn't, in those childhood moments, experiencing people who lived a double life and were controlling, that I didn't grow up in environments where I felt emotionally safe or secure. So, and then it didn't help being emotionally abandoned, so that leaves that in the air, as you see a lot of men now who have experienced being emotionally abandoned or abused, and that leaves them with this numb feeling, or sometimes seeking out, or trying to seek out a woman that has this that can offer this emotional security. But I will be the first to say, for a lot of you, is that for me, I had to learn to give that to myself. I didn't even know how. And through the process of, again, from being projected on, from experiencing wounded women, to being wounded, brought me to the wound itself. The darkness brought me to the awareness, like, I haven't felt emotionally safe. And that emotional resonance, that emotional aspect of who we all are, begins with our mothers, begins with the matriarchal, begins with our grandmothers. And when I look at their environments, whether she knows it or not, she couldn't offer me an emotional, safe, or secure environment, because of what she was already dealing with men, or she never felt that emotional security within herself, such as my grandmother. Again, these are women who also displayed, again, these double lives of a narcissist, to where we were dealing with a lot in home as kids, grandkids, but then they would go out in public and display this perfect behavior, this perfectionism, and a lot of that perfectionism connected to a lot of repressed things. We were on the other end of that repressed anger and emotion and resentment and jealousy, and and so forth. And the reason I like to speak about it is so to bring awareness to, again, where we all have, in a way, whether in the different realms of things or, in different environments, have experienced it, either by the hands of the ones that we love, or we have inflicted that, whether we know it or not. But it doesn't change until we become aware. I've seen, just from experience, people who have went through it, that don't know how to recover, that don't know how to navigate and get through it. This is the purpose of me, like, expressing it, to create this, to enlighten people or bring more awareness to the fact of, like, you don't have to feel, because I know what a lot of people hold shame and guilt around it. There's a lot of shame and guilt around their actions or past actions. But I'll be the first to say, like, acceptance and forgiving yourself, because that pain, what you probably have inflicted, like, really become aware, like, where is the root of that pain? Where did you learn that behavior? And this is a lot of questions that are not asked. This is a lot of things that there's not really a lot of support in, because there's this immediately, there's this image of, how we have accepted, like, seeing people more aggressive, or seeing people, I'm on 10%, but just seeing people as they are. We immediately have been programmed to just judge a book by its cover. Okay, this is what they look like. This is how they act. This is da-da-da-da-da. This is where they at in life. This is what they have, money. All these superficial shit, all this surface stuff. And it's immediately like this. We just see this and don't care to do this. That's what the world is honestly missing. Because then, as we learn to connect, we'll realize how much, like, but that's the thing the world is missing or being empty of, is the self-compassion, to where we can be able to put ourselves there. And I say that because, like, I've been talking to kids and seeing kids in the community, and one of the most challenging things for me has been a lot of us visually, I just got to say this on this video, but I'll get more to depth on another one. One of the most challenging things for me is that I haven't seen men that look like me, whether in this country or in environments that really get treated with respect, with love, empowered, embraced. And so I feel like that right there is one of the most key points that a lot of us as men probably are looking for women who don't know. It's like, we have seen so much of people that look like us, or just displayed as if they're just not even good enough in any way, to where this is where the healing comes in, is that's the wound that we most likely carry around. I don't know how long I want to continue. Well, I got 10%, so I gotta let it charge, but I don't know, I had to just say that. And this is for all the young men that are seeing this too. And I'm speaking to, because I speak to everyone, they're all involved, but this is for those of you that are probably going through some type of psychological warfare, or have, and due to the fact of, again, having grown up in these environments, no matter your age, is that you are valuable. And I know your mother and your father probably didn't say that, but speaking from a man who honors both mother and father, or the feminine and masculine energies and principles, you are valuable. I'm speaking from a father to the young men, and to the men that are probably my elder, like, you still are valuable. Because the ones that are my elder, I'm speaking to the little boy in you, and even to the women, like, we all are valuable. It's just, again, it's very challenging, not only from the psychological warfare of how we have been displayed to the world. It takes a lot of courage to even come on and even talk, and to uplift myself, and to even share this shit, because that's even like, I'm currently creating a masterpiece now where I haven't touched a paintbrush, and like it's going on 2.5 months. But it was just the fact of the things that transpired from that for me to really now intentionally do something for me. We've been trying to do everything for everyone else, but again, due to the environments, it's a step by step, like one step at a time. It's a daily process of just simply getting through the day and realizing what we have experienced. But one of the most valuable things is that it has brought me to this present moment of really seeing my value and my worth, and seeing how limitless and abundant and prosperous I am. And that doesn't mean externally, I mean internally, to where I can now feel it, see it, and be it. And that don't just happen like that. It has been a process. Because we all want to be seen, but I don't just mean externally. We want, we desire and deserve people who see us internally. And I know it's difficult for a lot of us to believe that, because of how much we have been programmed to believe and what we have been subjected to in our childhood. Because, we have had caregivers who are simply focused on the black and white narrative, or so focused on the lack narrative, to where now we're unlearning, relearning, processing, now becoming at peace with a lot of things, to where we now, it's again, my mind was on, at a moment, being focused on what I thought my mom and dad or the world societally felt like I should take on or believe or accept, or it's so many things around it, to where I really had to rid myself and really sit with it and realize, like, but is that the world that I want to create? Their world, my world is different, because from my lens, from my childhood, and seeing how I was treated, seeing how the world was, and that moment really no longer exists. Because where I'm currently at, every day, step by step, I'm reinventing, recreating, reestablishing, uprooting, planting seeds for not only myself, but the future generations. So I know for a lot of us is that due to so many stereotypes, due to so much programming around success, to be men, to be what it is to be human, to be even accepted. Because I can tell you presently, like I've had a few days ago and so forth, had to still, go through things where people still are afraid, or not that it bothers me, but the inner child, the little boy in me, like, why are people still focused on what someone looks like? They're intimidated by someone's size or tattoo, just simple stuff. But what encourages me is to realize, like, that's not my world, that's their reality. And that's the most challenging thing when you break free and liberate yourself mentally, emotionally, physically, is that process of removing yourself. Then you realizing, like, when you see what you went through, when I'm talking about how, like, the double life thing, is that you went through it only to go through it. Like, you went through it, but you don't just, you gotta go through the storm to see the rainbow on the other end. So it's like I had to experience these things. I had to be a part of it. Other people had to be a part of my experience to now realize, like, let me see the grander picture. Let me see the bigger picture. So, yeah, man, I don't know. I really want to, I got to charge up my phone. I feel like I probably will do a part 2 to this. But I really wanted to just really discuss that with y'all, like, that accountability and that acceptance is huge. And that's where the healing really begins. And that's where the frustration, the emotions, everything come up around it. This shit is not perfect. I haven't at all or ever portray or put on here that I'm perfect. Not at all. Um, I just realized, like, as in healing, I won't tolerate certain shit no more. I won't tolerate, no. And that's the beauty of it, like taking back your power and standing in your power. So I will definitely do a part 2 to this. I appreciate you all. I value you. I see you. I see all of you, no matter your coaching, creed, or whatever. But, you know, there's certain topics I do talk about is because that could be speaking to that. You know, certain things are for, you know, everything ain't for everybody, but certain things I do speak on is for those specific, you know, whether people, environments, and so forth, for us to see the wholeness, because it's like certain topics are like it's like puzzle pieces to bring it all together. So that's just what it is. Peace and blessings. Shalom.